Morning traders, morning guys, how we doing? We've looked at a lot of currency pairs, have a lot of setup. So this is going to be predominantly dependent on what currency pair you like to trade, and I'm going to try to get through most of them. I'm looking at 5 or 6 across the US dollar range. I'm looking at 3 or 4 across the Japanese yen range. Again, 3 or 4 exotics as well. So there's going to be a lot of choice, a lot of variety that we need to be aware of. And we need to just be aware that we can control the emotions and not try to jump into every fucking thing. So we'll start off with Euro USD. Now let's just kind of recap on some of the price action that has occurred. Quite clearly, we have rebounded from this nice little support level from down here, 1.1550-ish, 1.1540. Has evidently held its support level. Now we can see this on a larger time frame picture is looking like an inverted head and shoulders. However, the original neckline has been broken. However, 1.1790, let's just refer it to as 1.180, is going to be crucial. Now, all the MAs are crossed to the upside, and the weekly time frame price action is phenomenally big. Phenomenally big. I know that when we worked together previously, I did mention about this 3-pin Morningstar formation, big hammer, big reversal, big reversal, probably some of the biggest reversal formation that we've seen in a long time. So although that we got stuck in this range, we have now essentially kind of broken above it, broken above the moving average, first time in a long time as well. So this thing is evidently only going higher. It's just about where do we find the entry higher. Now at the moment we do have a slightly inner and outer trend line. So if I did take 1 and 2, we could be looking at this thing actually just retesting the highs in and around 1.1790, which is doing quite nicely already. We have had this nice full-bodied break and closure back above in a region that we've previously failed to close above in the last 2 or 3 months, except this singular wick high up here. Now, singular wick highs can be very powerful pieces of tools, not understanding where price really doesn't want to be at and a full rejection of price points. So we've got to be aware that we can use that as protection at the moment. We can use 1.1790. If we have a full daily break and closure above that, then we can consider an entry. And I mean, there's no real limit to where this can go. Probably looking at 1.1850, if not into 1.19250, and then ideally towards 1.2, completing this overall correctional phase up in alignment up here. If anything, we could even potentially go above and beyond, maybe even push towards 1.2100, but we'll get to that when we get to that. If we get really tight and narrow into what's occurring at the moment on a 4-hour time frame, we can see that we are making this nice, beautiful little series of high lows and higher highs, high low, high low, so on and so forth. And we've had a nice confirmation, slow down overnight, bullish reaction here on Monday morning after the London session. We've still got the nice continuation for the next 20 odd minutes or so. However, I will be cautious as it's Monday. In this sequence, we could, by all means, go on and create a new higher high by the end of today, and that'll be fine. That'll be perfect for actually that daily break and closure of 1.1790, which I will consider there to be my entry to the upside. At the moment, I would quite like a deeper correction. Oh, goodness, apologies. I would like a deeper correction, so I'm going to go actually and keep an eye on, if we can. Bear in mind, I'm remaining firmly bullish on this. I am looking for a deeper correction in the way that we could come and retest, even maybe 1.650. We have quite a lot of news announcements out this week. Whether it's Monday, Tuesday, we see continued weakness. At 2 p.m. later on today, we've got the ECB president speaks. And then on Wednesday, we've got all this FOMC, Federal Reserve interest rate decision coming out as well, which if there's any form of dovish sentiment, I believe that the US dollar is going to absolutely crumble. So come back to this. At the moment, we are looking to come and retest this 1.1790. If we can, we could maybe form a double top formation, then roll back over, duplicate the height and size, and just come back into this range down here. Now, anywhere that we are looking for, I'm either looking for the daily break and closure above here, and we will look to extend, or I'm looking for a third touch of this overall ascending trend line in here if that inner one was to be broken. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. 1, 2, and then I'm looking for maybe a third touch of the overall ascending trend line. And we can look for the further upside momentum from there. At the moment, we are being kept up by this inner trend line in here. 1, 2, 3. and therefore have to consider that as holding price up at the moment. But if we were to break this, we could target the outer before continuing our overall momentum. I do like the horizontal price point of 1.1650 to consider. Now, for me, Euro USD and actually GBP USD are not my number one and number two on my watch list at the moment. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the sentiment on this is very, very bullish. We've got nice weakness on the Friday that could be profit taking over just coming into the weekend. We had a nice extended rally here, broken out of this area that was trapping price for such a period of time, and therefore I would expect the continuation. However, we've got Wednesday in terms of news announcement or fundamental announcements to understand that there could be, that's when the price may or may not have that accelerated price. GBP USD, I'm looking at the fact that we have broken this channel. It's the descending channel in here. We had the nice little fake out to the downside and before remaining ourselves in it. We've now broken. I'm looking for obviously a huge amount of weakness on the Friday, a nice release of pressure, and I'm fully expecting maybe a slightly further continuation back in towards 1.3. Again, we've got a similar formation. If I print some of these, I've got 1, I've got 2, and we could be looking for a third in and around with what our last significant low of the market in here into our significant high. I'm looking for the full pullback and retracement back in towards 1.3, if not 1.2980, and then looking for a retest of the broken channel to then the extension higher. So this could be a phenomenal setup in a way that if we did get back into this region in here, we would have so many confluences coming in alignment. Now, whether we pull back into here, I'm still expecting a slightly higher push to then go higher. We would have the break and the retest of the channel high. I've got the Fibonacci extension target, and I've got the ascending trend line third touch bounce. So 1, 2, and 3 could lead this thing into a nice further push. Even if we don't break beyond 1.33, we could most definitely come and retarget or revisit 1.33 over the next coming days or so. But this is what I'm looking at the moment on a Monday. I don't often like doing it on a Monday, but this is what I'm looking at. If we can come back into the liquidation spot over here, nice tweezer top, huge shooting star Marubozu, bearish engulfing. If I can get in and around 1.3200, I will be looking for a nice short back in towards 1.3 to then go long for the rest of the week to come back in towards 1.33. So you've got multiple setups there in alignment. If this thing does continue, obviously we would hopefully already be short from up here, and then we could ride that thing much, much lower. But like I said, these two are not my favorite setups just yet. So we'll come on to what I do favor. Aussie dollar. Now, Aussie dollar is looking fantastic. Weekly time frame. Huge bullish weekly time frame, which we haven't seen this bullish price action for such a period of time. Probably the biggest piece of bullish price action we've seen since, well, February, really. Boom, 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 boom. Come all the way to low. You've got the inverted hammer here with the acceleration. We could almost consider this like an inside bar up. Or, kind of some form of morning star here as well. Continuation, indecision, a reversal formation. So we've broken back above that MA here as well. Looking for the continuation. Now, I know why Friday stalled, because we've come on for that third touch of 1, 2, and 3. We've come and hit that resistance high. Now, I think people will be looking to sell off into this position, and therefore that gives us an opportunity to actually sell off into this region, back in alignment with 0.72250, and in alignment with the 61.8, and we've got 0.7200, which is the previous low of this 3-pin pattern over here as well. If we could get that all formulating, we would have a fantastic inverted head and shoulders formation to then ride us back up into 0.7350. Can you see how that 127% lines up almost exactly on that level? And where that previous reaction's over here when we had that messy period of time frame. And then if we break that overall ascending trend line, this thing could be well and truly off. We could be fully back for 0.7750. If not back towards 0.8100 by the end of the year. So bear that in mind, that we do have like lots of opportunities coming up, and we don't have to be the earliest to the party on this Aussie dollar. However, a nice reaction off of the 61, off of 0.7200 will be a prime level of entry execution. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, fall, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, snap. And I would expect the continuation. Now come back to the weekly. I would like to see 1 week, 2 week, 3 week of bullish momentum. Then we could stall leading into the final month or so. However, that is what I'm looking for on Aussie dollar. There's not much more I can add to that, really. Not much more I can add to that. Maybe we could stall on the MA here at 0.7250. But I do favour, because of the amount of confluences, because I believe this will try suck sellers into the market to start a new leg to the downside, because you could quite easily fib this from here to here, and you could say, oh, I'm stuck on that 71 and I'm looking to reverse from there. I think it will suck sellers in before reversing on us on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So that's what I'm excited about on that Aussie dollar. We gapped quite heavily. And we came and fulfilled this candlestick here. So I am now expecting that momentum to roll back over. We can see how accurate the 0.72250 has been and will continue to be if we do come back into this level. So Aussie dollar, definitely one for the watch list. Definitely one for the watch list. So keep that up there. Same way that if I correlate that with USD CAD as well, what I can see is a series of lower lows and lower highs, lower lows and lower highs. Obviously, this one I'm classing this as more of an equal lower high, and therefore this is an equal lower low. However, in the formation that we are forming, we are looking at continuing this overall downtrend. Now, I personally am looking at this spinning top formation at the bottom of the downtrend in here. I'm taking the first high, and I'm looking for the acceleration back into this resistance to form a new lower high, maybe in alignment if I do come into a 4-hour time frame. Maybe we could take an additional trend line touch, something like that. Actually, I don't like it, so ignore that. However, this is looking pretty good. The daily spinning tops at the bottom of a downtrend, confirming a swing point reversal. I'm looking for the price to pull itself back up in and towards 1.300, which is a nice clean level, psychological level, institutional level, where we previously had this ridiculous candlestick in here, which we spiked up and closed all the way back below. So we could potentially come and fulfill this price action in here. We do have the first level here of around 129.80 to be aware of. However, 1.3 does have more confluence with it. It sits right in between the 61 and the 71. And I will be looking for a nice push up into here before rolling back over in towards 128. If anything, I will be looking to extend into 127.50. Why? Because the previous price action has held more relevance 50 pips lower. 50 pips lower, so I will be looking for a nice pop up into here for the rollover of price here. On a weekly time frame, I can see that we've had one drive, two drive, MAs are crossing over. We've broken the previous trend line. Very, very bearish price action. A nice pop up to retest the weekly MA before the extension to the downside would be an incredible trade position. And like I said, USD CAD surely has to be our number one for the rest of the year because the amount of room it's potentially got to fall. So please don't miss this. Please don't miss this. And this is why Aussie and USD CAD are my main watch list for this week, over and above Euro and GBP. Euro and GBP, they're a bit messy. They've got Brexit to deal with. Aussie dollar's looking like it's recovering. The commodities recovered last week as well. Dairy looks like it might recover a little bit. We are at 5-year ultimate highs of yields and bond curves. So we are looking for this kind of a huge release of pressure. They're going to start selling them off, therefore increasing that Australian dollar, that Canadian dollar, those commodity type pairs in forms of strength. And therefore, this is why all these setups are potentially coming in alignment. So I'm very positive in terms of what I'm looking at the moment. Nice, beautiful price action here. Monday, Tuesday, bam. I'm looking for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday reversal back in towards 127.50 to the downside. One more I'm going to add in there is New Zealand dollar as well. Looks fantastic. There's a couple things on here. Again, ending diagonal at the bottom of the downtrend. We have so much room to make up that this could be probably our number one trade of the year as well. The way that we've fallen and broken out of this channel, we've had this nice clean break, the weekly time frame again, huge 3-pin pattern Morningstar formation, almost a little bit of a double bottom here on the weekly time frame, breaking back above the MA for the first time since, April really, April, May. And therefore that's a good indication that we are going to come higher. So come back to the daily time frame. We can see that we came bam into 0.6700, looking at the resistance. We've come into that daily 50 EMA, so we are looking for a slight rejection or pullback correctional price. I favor 0.6620. We could line this up on a 4-hour time frame. We could be looking at maybe a fib in here as well. We could be looking at A into B. Whichever level, I'm pretty sure that would probably just be a 50. I'm probably just stick it on as well. Yeah, so 50% lines up quite nicely with that, which does in essence line up very, very nicely with that daily moving average in here as well. So that could be very, very strong in terms of confluences and where we look to take a trade from. I can see I've got a singular wick high up here. See, I've got the singular wick low. I've got the singular wick high up here as well. So it'd be too easy to come into 0.6660, but be aware that that's a possibility. However, I favor a nice daily test of this moving average. The same principle that I'm looking at again, Monday, Tuesday, looking for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to push us up higher as well. So New Zealand dollar's got a lot of room to make up. Do be aware that that is a great opportunity, and we will either be looking for if none of these retracements happen and they're all going higher. Don't think I'm trying to sell this. I'm only concentrated in a buy here. Only concentrated in a buy. So we're either going to break or come back to this level and rebound, or we're going to come and break above this level of 0.6700 and just continue to the upside. We have some huge announcements this week as well. Interest rate decision, statement, press conference. So again, if we see any form of dovish sentiment from that Federal Reserve and then any form of positive sentiment from New Zealand dollar, this is why this is going to be my number one, because we've got so much room to make up. We've broken out of this ending diagonal, this channel formation in here, come back for the retest. We've got the fib. This is looking absolutely fantastic. I can't express how much I'm excited for the rest of this week because everything is lining up beautifully. So that's all I'm going to look at. I could throw the dollar index in here as well. We can see, come to the weekly time frame, very, very simply, evening star, 3-pin pattern, shooting star, big bearish engulfing, boom, 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 boom. You then had the hanging man that's now broken with the MAs crossing over. We are just being resisted by the weekly 50 at the moment. Come to the daily, and the price just looks horrendous, doesn't it? It just looks horrendous. What we could say is at the moment we've got 1 touch, 2 touch. Price may stall and have the 3rd touch in here until that Federal Reserve interest rate decision, which is widely expected to be increased. It's not so much about the increase of the rate. It's more about what are they going to say? What's the sentiment? Are they going to start slowing this process down? Are they going to start mentioning, the trade wars, negotiations, things like this? You have to be aware these things are going on. And although the technicals are painting the picture that the US dollar is going to weaken, we have to be aware that obviously if they do say something, we could cause a spike, but then the overall technical analysis will come into play as well. So dollar index, we are looking lower. I'm not too interested in today's price because it's Monday and it's not even midday yet. So I'm just waiting for this thing to actually maybe pull up Monday, Tuesday, and then we can look for the kind of reversal from there. Now, if I come into Japanese yen currency pairs, GBP, JPY, what I am looking at in here, cool. Let me not confuse things. Get rid of that. What I can see is the acceleration. I can see a nice drive phase up into the high. I can see this nice leg, and we've had the huge release of pressure from a previous singular wick resistance high. 1493, I'm probably going to call that 50, 149350. Huge amount of release of pressure here. However, the MAs are hugely diverged, and we're looking to push to the upside. The moment we're sitting on that 38.2. However, I'm actually looking for a slightly deeper retracement because we have broken this inner trend line in here. And this is where the setup comes from. If we can come back to retest this broken inner trend line, that is what I'm looking at. Let's get rid of this original fib in here. We've got this nice trend line here. If we can come back to retest this around 148.50, I'm going to be looking around 148 because that's the previous liquidation zone. If I scroll over here, this is the area that we've got to be aware of. But if we can get to 148.50, by all means, then that's a nice break and retest of the counter trend line. I could be looking at this type of a fib movement in here as well. And then we could look to extend in towards 145. So that is what I do favor. I'm looking for that nice retest of 148.50 back to the downside. The US dollar pairs are predominantly my favorite currencies to look at the moment. However, this does line up very, very nicely. So I will be conscious of looking at this position throughout the week as well. So GJs look pretty cool. In alignment with that, in terms of the execution level, I can see that we have looked to form a bit of a reversal here. We've gone into higher highs, higher lows, higher high, and therefore what do we form after a new higher high? Exactly, a new higher low. So 61.8 does line up pretty well in alignment with that 145. Let me get rid of that 50. 145, and again, the same principle. I'm looking at 1 touch, 2 touch, and then could we have a 3rd touch of this trend line in here? I'm not going to say whether we definitely rebound from there, because I need to get to that place first. How quickly do we get that? How do we respond once we get there? 145 is a massive, massive level, huge, huge level, and I do expect us to actually form some form of reaction if we can get there. At the moment, in terms of filing and execution, like I said, it will be in and around this level if I can, in alignment with this type of a fib. So if I can get up into here, I will be looking for price to actually reject, pull back into this level 145, and then potentially rebound from there as well. So guys, that's GJ, wicked trade setup that I'm looking for. And if it does fulfill, that's just another additional setup. We are already approaching 148, so do be aware if we start getting kind of weakness in and around this level, midday, whatnot, we could look to start to crumble from here. However, could almost push slightly higher. I'm never surprised by GJ, and we can always come higher. EJ is fulfilling what I'm looking at already. So I was looking for a double top formation, maybe push up into this high up here. The same setup, 1, 2, looking for a third touch of the ascending trend line. Nicely bullish fib leg in here for the retracement back in and around 130. 130 will hold the key. Crucial level. If we break back below 130, this thing could crumble. However, if we maintain above it on that third trend line touch, this thing could accelerate very much to the upside. So my bias on this again was that we will push higher, hence why the arrow's up here and perfect. I've got the little double top up there. I'm looking for price to come and retest 133. Come to retest this level up here to then look to sell off into this region in and around 130, if not just slightly higher, 130, 150, probably a take profit, and then to actually rebound back in towards the highs once more. So that's what I'm looking at on Euro JPY, very simply, don't need to go into too much explanation. Weekly time frame, hugely bearish, hugely bullish price action here. 1, 2, 3, stall in price, 1, 2, I'm looking for the third week of continuation. So it could be quite a volatile week. We've got the announcement at 2 p.m. today from the Draghi that may force the price down. Tuesday, Wednesday, looking for the acceleration in price back to the upside. So again, that's what I'm looking at. I'm also very conscious that we may not even fulfill and get to this level. We do currently have this inner trend line in play as well. And that is something that, at the moment we are maintaining ourselves above it. So we'd have to be aware. 1, 2, looking for maybe a little third and rebound from here. If we didn't have any form of retracement and we just blew to the upside and we just continued momentum, price action didn't want to fuck around with us at all, and we just blew out, I would consider 134.40 your next upside target. There you go. And the trade setup would come from a break of this resistance high. A daily break of the resistance high up here would lead us directly in towards 134.40. However, I do favor the whole correctional setup, even if it's not this week. I do prefer some form of retracement, even if it's back in towards 130.80, preferably in towards 130. And then we go from there. So I'm going to stick to my guns. Obviously, I'm very adaptive. I'm on the charts day in, day out. I'm looking for a rebound, back into somewhat into here, to maybe then accelerate in alignment with my overall fib. Something like that. So that's what I'm looking for. I may not even sell it, but as soon as I get the opportunity to buy it again, I will most definitely be looking to do that. Finally, something like AJ excites me a lot. Again, a very similar setup, a fantastic inverted head and shoulders, break of this ending diagonal formation in here, back in towards this consolidation format in here. Huge weekly price. 1, 2, breaking back above the MA. I'm looking for the retest of potentially the MA in there, which does come in alignment with around 81.20, and therefore I am actually looking for price to start to weaken from this level up here. If price could weaken from here, that would be fantastic, and I'd look for it to roll back over. We've now fulfilled the gap up here that we did have overnight. I've got the fib formation. 61.8 lines up exactly on my 80-70 type level, which is a nice form of previous support, previous resistance over here, and over here. So that would be very nice if we could get there. I honestly don't think we will. So I'm more interested in maybe pulling back in towards this type of a zone in here, which has previously the tweezer bottom formation here and the tweezer bottom formation in there. So if we can, and the singular wick spike there. So if we can get back into here, this is where I'll be looking to actually take the pair much higher, probably even in terms of a swing, probably to take this back towards 84. So again, AJ is very much on my list of potentials as well. So do be aware. God, I'm getting exhausted here. And then EA and GA. That's all I can do right now. EA and GA. I have obviously brilliant weekly formation here. Brilliant 3-pin pattern, weekly formation, evening start. I'm looking for price to get up to the highs, and then I'm looking for it to kind of crumble back to the lows around 1.5900. That's going to be my eventual downside target. Whether or not that happens this week, I don't think it will, but over the next coming weeks, I am looking for 1.5900 to be fulfilled. I can see that I've got this A into B. I'm looking for that C leg retracement into a third touch, 1, 2, and 3 of the ascending trend line. If we talk about it long term, I think we could break, come and retest 161, and then break on a fourth touch for the trend line. But that's long term. Come back into the daily, got the nice reversal on the weekly. So the daily time frame is just about how can we find an entry level for a continuation to the downside. Again, very simply, nice little fib wave, lower high. I'm looking for a third touch of this trend line. 1, 2, maybe in and around 61 or 71, which I prefer, which is exactly on that key level of 1.6250. I can see that I've broken here very nicely. And this is why I'm lining up those retracements on Aussie dollar, US dollar, and those retracements on Aussie dollar, Japanese yen. It's the way that I see the euro and GBP AUD having this correction before continuing to the downside. So I am looking for this thing to get higher, hopefully up in and around this level. In and around 1.6240 will probably be an entry target for me. And I'll look to ride this thing back to the downside as much as I can. So take that thing back to the downside. I'm only going to remain bearish, but I'm looking for a nice retracement into this level for a third touch, and then boom, I'll ride that thing all the way back down. Same setup on GBP AUD in a way that actually I don't think we'll have as big of a correction, but a similar thing on a 4 hour, 1 touch, 2 touch. I'm looking for a third touch correction in and around just below 1.8100, and then I'm looking for that continuation, the same setup, to actually come and retest these lows. This could be a big M-type formation, and then we could come to the lows. So guys, apologies those last two. I'm getting exhausted. But yeah, EA, GA, let's isolate those singular wick highs in here on GA. We've got nice liquidity spots where the price has previously reacted before. Worst case scenario, we could come and retest 1.8130 before coming lower. Maybe even retest that MA there on that daily, that weekly time frame. EA, definitely let's push higher in towards that fib. See how that second extension level lines up exactly in and around my overall bullish extension as well, or retracement level. So guys, that's it from me. US dollar pairs looking pretty good. EA and GA are definitely my top ones as well. The Japanese yen ones, let's see how they play out. And guys, trade safe, and I will catch up with you pretty soon.